Alrighty, guys. Happy Monday. We're going to be starting out Roots Week 12 today, and today we're going to finish out the 10 Commandments. So we sort of divided it up through the first 4 and the last 6 because the last 6 are shorter, pretty easy to remember. I just want to jump in and go ahead and read those, and then we'll talk about it for just a quick second. So this is from Exodus 20. We're going to read verses 12 through 17. It says, "Honor your father and your mother so that you may have a long life in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not give false testimony against your neighbor. Do not covet your neighbor's house. Do not covet your neighbor's wife, his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." Now, I want to talk just for a second about that last commandment, the commandment not to covet. Covet's not really a word that we use. I'm not completely sure, I guess, why that's the word that people choose to translate that verse with. But when we're talking about coveting something, we're in a lot of ways talking about feeling, jealous of something, basically wanting something that's not yours, wanting your neighbor's house or their, in this case, their wife or their ox. I doubt a lot of y'all are jealous of other people's oxes, but who knows? I don't know. The idea is that you just shouldn't be jealous. You shouldn't be obsessed with and want the things that belong to other people. And what we're getting at there is not necessarily like, oh, well, they have a really nice car. I wish I could have a nice car like that, but I want their nice car. I want to take it for my own and that sort of thing. I think that's a really important commandment because this commandment really deals with people's hearts towards each other. If you were caught, if you murdered somebody or if you stole something, or even if you lied, like in court or something like that, we punish people for doing that. But there's not really a way for anybody to punish someone for how they feel in their heart and their mind. You can't punish somebody for coveting something. You may not even know that it's happening. And yet God still commands that. It's part of the 10 Commandments that God says don't covet. What that shows us is that God is concerned not just with our actions, but also with our hearts and our attitudes towards other people. He does care about the way that we think and the way that we allow our mind to work. Now, you can't necessarily help how you feel at any given moment, but you can control how you respond to it. You can control the way that you let thoughts linger, the way that you obsess over certain things. You can control that, and God does care about that. He does command us not to do that, because if you spend all your day obsessing over the things that your neighbor has but you don't have, well, you're setting yourself up to get to the point where eventually you will steal it, or you will lie to them, or you will do something awful. And so, because the bad things that we do so often originate in our thoughts and intentions that we keep to ourselves, and eventually it grows out of those things. If you flip over to the New Testament, Jesus has these statements where looks like he's overturning the law in a lot of ways, where he says, "You heard it said, don't murder, but I say to you," and then he'll go on and explain that if you hate somebody, you've murdered them in your heart, or if you look at somebody with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. And sometimes that gets portrayed as like, oh, Jesus is really, turning, the scripture up on its head. But to me, it looks like he's perfectly in line with what the 10 Commandments taught all along to begin with. And so I think we should know that, like, our hearts, our intentions, our thoughts, our attitudes, those are open before God. God sees those. And while we can't judge each other in that way, because I don't know what you're thinking at any given moment, God does. God knows our hearts, and He cares about what we think about. He cares about what we obsess over. And so be careful that you watch your thought life, that you watch what you think about, that you watch the things that you love. Because if you allow yourself to think in a bad way, eventually you'll wind up doing a bad thing. So watch what you think.